Good evening, everyone. Dave DeVerdine is calling in from snowy, cold Burlington, Vermont. It is the 13th of December, 2017, 8:30 here on the East Coast. Glad you're joining the call. We're excited that you're here. We have a lot of stuff going on. I know it's the end of the year. I know you're busy. I know holidays and like that. Thank you for spending a few minutes with us tonight. Special call. Rich Shafer has been doing some research on critical mass. And critical mass in terms of our company, in terms of how that turns into momentum. And he's got some amazing things that I saw earlier today that I know he wants to share with you guys. I'm going to turn this over to him. By the way, we have our team, a corporate call coming up at the top of the hour, and that link is going to be thecorporatecall.com. thecorporatecall.com. So let me turn this over to Rich. Rich, let me give you the we'll make you the host, my friend. We got it recorded, and you're on, brother.
All right. Let me just share out my screen here. Okay. And then we will get started. Let's get this computer sound. Okay. Everybody see that good? You see that, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. Right on.
Okay, perfect. I learned about momentum and critical mass about 25 years ago, back in 1989, 1990. So, 27, 28 years ago. And I've done some research and observations over the past probably 6 months. But in the last several weeks, I put this into a slide presentation for everyone. This is really key to be able to understand this, and let's get started because we've got about 20 slides here to show you and a lot of information. So we're going to condense this down pretty quick for you so you can get this. First of all, momentum is a mystery to most network marketers, and here's what momentum is. It's a place to build a huge business in the shortest period of time. It's the time recruitment and sales accelerate in ways that make you scratch your head. Basically, you've heard it said before, fast pace becomes fast, silly pace. In the middle of it, things get fun. You can check your genealogy report, and it's multiplied to thousands. It might have been hundreds, 100 or so in a week, or every several, 100 or two in a week. I've seen almost 200 in a week. It's fantastic, but it gets multiplied to literally thousands will come in your network during a month. Your heart beats faster. You can probably imagine it. You log on and you see 1,000 new people in your network. People look at you as though you're walking on the clouds, and momentum is captured by fortunate network marketers when they're in at the right time. Now, there's 4 phases of growth in any company. Now, that's not just multi-level marketing. It's any company, whether it's Nike, whether it's Reebok, or Levi's, or any type of company, whatever that is. Phase one is the formulation phase. We're going to talk about what each one of these is in a moment. There's the concentration phase, there's the momentum phase, there's the stability phase. And as you look at that whole chart, each one of those individuals, I broke it down into individual components there, but when you look at the whole chart together, you're going to see a phenomenon known as the S-curve. And this is what's key to business and its growth. Now let's talk about the formulation phase. The formulation phase is when the company is in startup mode. Products are introduced to the market. This is the best time to market your product because no one's heard of it. It attracts a lot of visionaries to the company in this beginning phase right here. This stage or this phase can last 1 to 2 years. The concentration phase. This is when companies, they hit this phase within their first year. And many companies have done it within their first year. Some of it's a second year. Leaders start to join the company during this phase. Pay particular attention to this phase because we're going to see something pretty exciting about this phase here and how it relates to Tavala. This is seen as the best time to join an MLM company. And that's what we're talking about here. It offers a more stable and long-term opportunity. It is established, but it's not yet hit the coveted momentum phase of $50 million in sales per year. The concentration phase can last 12 to 18 months. MLM members start out part-time in the concentration phase, and then if they start part-time, it can now start to go into a full-time, which triggers the momentum phase. So as folks are starting to make money and folks are starting to enter the full-time range, we start to hit momentum. Momentum, you'll experience explosive growth in this phase. Distributors will see that rapid team growth personally. Now, this is the best time to be a part of an MLM. It's best to get involved with them before that, but this is where it really becomes fun. Momentum phase can last between 3 and 5 years. Now, we're going to see some of these examples in some charts that we're going to see in a little bit of companies that went through this. The sales grow to $50 million per year from $50 million per year to over $500 million in a single year. Some companies even go on to break the $1 billion threshold. Millionaires are born during this momentum phase. The average distributors do very well building successful businesses. Stability phase. This is when the company is very solid. It's a good opportunity. Most distributors will never see explosive growth in this phase. You've seen companies like this, maybe you've been a part of them, okay? Everyone's kind of growing at the same pace. You don't see people putting on hundreds and thousands of new members in a month. They've got a proven track record of success. And in the stability phases, a lot of companies sell that point. We're proven, we're successful, you've got a solid opportunity here for this. Corporate and field leaderships have large teams. It's very solid, these teams. And you see them. You see the people walking across the stage with the big checks, and you see the solid organizations during this time period and the large teams that people have. They're already there in place. It's less of an opportunity to build a massive success fast. The average distributor struggles to make a 6 to 7 figure income. They can do it, but it's not going to happen faster. They're going to struggle to be able to do that. The best time to enter is undeniably during the concentration phase. This will give you the time to build the team when all critical components are in place. Distributors can build the team before entering the momentum phase. That's during the concentration phase. Remember, we're going to talk about that in a second. Now, when will momentum start? Well, there's a book that was published by Malcolm Gladwell. It's called The Tipping Point, How Little Things Can Make a Big Difference. Both Dave and I have read this in the past. And in this, he describes the tipping point. Here's what it is. It's the name given to the moment in an epidemic when a virus reaches critical mass. It's the boiling point. So imagine just thinking about a pot of water that's on your stove. And as you start to see the bubbles coming up around the sides of the pot, you start to hear from different leaders. Dave and I have talked about earlier this year, probably about September, about our teams growing into the stability phase and how our checks were starting to enter into, our teams are starting to enter into those lower levels, those 4, 5, 6, 7 levels. We're down 10, 12, 13, 14 levels now on our team. So, and we saw how our checks started to stabilize, become really solid in those lower levels. So we've been experiencing also rapid growth within our team as well. My team's now over 2,200 people. Dave's got 4,000 or 5,000 people in his team. And we're seeing this boiling point where the bubbles are starting to trickle up the side of the pot. And right when you get to that point, before it's in a full rage, that's the tipping point. We're going to find out another term for the tipping point in a minute. It's the moment on the graph when the line starts to shoot straight upwards. Having an anticipation of the number of months before this takes place allows you to formulate a strategy around it. And that's why we're putting this together for you right now, because we're starting to see this starting to take place. So in anticipation of this, for those that aren't seeing this in their group yet, it's because you're just behind Dave and I. So this is coming for you as well. Now, what happens is the company has an energy to it or a magic, and maybe you've seen that with different people. When a company is in this growth or momentum, this is a buzz. There's a buzz of excitement and magic that surrounds the opportunity that will propel your efforts. You can't sleep at night. This is real. This is when people say, I couldn't sleep last night. I kept thinking about this and the growth in my network. The checks kept exploding. Well, this is that energy or magic that we're starting to see happen. Now, millionaires have been made in the industry just because of timing alone. Nothing else. It wasn't anything about them. It wasn't their education. It wasn't, that they were in business before and were successful. It had nothing to do with that. It was all about timing and where they were at the right time in the company in that concentration phase. Now, it'll take over. I'll take time over hard work every time. So I'd rather be at the right time in an opportunity than have to go through all the hard work to be able to get to those high levels. Now, the tipping point again in momentum. So how can you gauge the timing of it? Well, it's easy based on a few simple tips, and I have just 2 of them right here. If the company, and you're going to get some information in a second about these tips and where all this information came from. If the company is a household name, well, its momentum growth or period has already occurred years ago. And probably you guys can think of a few companies that are household terms in network marketing. You want to get in before its momentum growth period. We talked about that, and it's before a company hits $50 million. We're going to show you some examples of this. So when you find a company like this, which we are right now, with all its parts and formulas in place, basically, guys, just paddle like heck to stay in front of the wave, okay? And that's where we're at right now, and that's why we're going to be talking about next year, 2018. Here's some links if you want any of this information. I've got the links to be able to read further on this because I've condensed this down in these slides to be able to make it, just give you the points, the information condensed for you. Now, take a look at this. We've seen this chart already. How would you like to be in the top 2% of a company, 2 to 3% of a company? Well, guys, as momentum comes, that's where we are right now. We've only got about 20,000 customers and members on the team. About 60% of those are customers in the company itself, okay? So as a company reaches 1 million, 2 million, you're going to see another company has 6.5 million distributors. Right now, guys, you are in the top 2 to 3% of the company. And when you see there, it talks about critical mass, it's 5 to 6 million a month. So that's 50 to 60 million a year. Guys, this is where fortunes are made. I just want you to think about that, okay? This is where we are. Now, I got a little video here from Ray Higdon that's going to emphasize these points as well. Whoop, let's go back.
I wanted to talk to you guys about a concept that I taught in Dallas just this past weekend, and it is my opinion and observation about a network marketing life cycle. And so there's a guy out there that kind of confirmed my thinking, and his name is, he's actually passed away, but his name is Peter Drucker. Okay, and he says he has there's 6 tenements of a good opportunity, or a great opportunity, or the perfect opportunity, actually, is what he calls it. The perfect opportunity. There are a couple things that you want to look at. And he says you want a business that is greater than 2 years old, because 9 out of 10 businesses, no matter where they are, whether it's network marketing, small business, whatever, in the first 2 years, 9 out of 10 fail. That's just a fact. And you want to have something that is less than 50 million a year. Okay? So the business, the perfect opportunity, one of the tenements is timing, and he says, a company that is more than 2 years old, past the safety zone there, not that a business can't fail after 2 years, but it's less likely, and before it's at $50 million a year. And so he describes this in an S-curve. Okay? And so he says, right around 50 million. It might be down a little bit, probably down a little bit. But he says you want to get into a business, something past 2 years, before it's at $50 million a year, that is part of the factors of a perfect opportunity. Let me explain what I've observed, okay? Now, I've interviewed a lot of guys in network marketing. I've interviewed, Randy Gage, Eric Worre, just goes on and on. Larry Thompson, LT, right? A lot of people who've made big money. And if you look at these success stories, look at the George Zalakis, the Jeff Robertis, anyone who you've seen make a lot of money, like a lot. I'm not talking about $100,000 a year. I'm talking about $100,000 to $500,000 to $1 million a month. Big money, right? Well, when I got into this business, within this industry, I wanted to be a big earner. I wanted to impact as many people as possible, and I wanted to be as lucrative as possible. And so I modeled these guys. I looked at, okay, what are their stories? How did it work? And it was neat reading Peter Drucker's Tenements for the Perfect Opportunity that kind of aligned myself. But here's what I see, okay? I see people that they are always looking for what's hot, okay? They're looking for what's hot, what's working, right? Something like that, okay? They typically enter into a network marketing business when it's 100 million, 500 million, even up to $1 billion in sales. Now, my first network marketing company, I was one of these. I was known as what Rich Shafer calls a seeker, okay? A seeker is someone who looks for what's hot, what's working, what's in momentum, right? That's a seeker, okay? They look for what is hot, what is already there, what's already established, all right? Now, the difference, according to Shafer, is you want to be a strategist, okay? Now, strategist defines what is the one that is most in alignment with my purpose. Richard Branson says that if a business is outside of you, then there's something wrong. You need to identify a concern and be willing to work hard to address that concern. It needs to be inside of you, okay? It's a little different. Seeker is looking for what's hot, what's working. So what's the point of this? Well, you want to look at if you want to make a lot of money. And I know there's a lot of leaders on my list. A lot of big-time earners will actually, take a look at this video, right? If you want to make the big money, you need to look at this. You need to evaluate this. Is it greater than 2 years old? Is it less than $50 million a year? Because here's what I see, okay? There's always 1 to 2, maybe even 3 companies that are over 2 years old, greater than $50 million a year, not less, greater than, that is hot, that everyone's flocking to, that everyone's posting around, that everyone's doing stuff with. The problem with that is, if you're a seeker versus a strategist, it won't last, okay? And so what happens is the person that came into a company, like I did in my first company, see, I learned my lesson. When I came in, that company was putting in 70 to 100,000 people a month, and I thought, oh, okay, then that's the time to get in, and it's not, okay? The time to get in is before that $50 million a year mark. Here's what happens. So people come in as a seeker, they say, this is hot, this is working, people are making money over here. Here's a secret. The same percentage of people make money in any company, okay? But when you have hundreds of millions of dollars being earned and hundreds of millions of dollars being done, there is going to be the same percentage, you just see more of them. The seeker that comes in with this, well, at some point, it reaches stabilization. Stabilization isn't sexy. It's not sexy at all. So what happens? The seeker goes to the next company, right? To the next company. To the next company, constantly picking the wrong timing because they think it's about what's hot or what's working, okay? If you want to be a strategist, identify with a company that is earlier on, that is not at hundreds of millions of dollars a year, okay? Identify that company, stay focused, stand your ground, and build that as a strategist. Now, I broke one of these rules 3 years ago. I got into a company that was less than 2 years old. High risk, okay? It's high risk. And now we're at, $10 million a year, right? And people are asking me, what? Ray, there's so many other companies that are hotter than yours now. I know that. That's the model. That's why so few people make big money in network marketing. But I challenge you, identify a leader who has made millions and millions and millions of dollars in network marketing over and kept it over a 5-year period. And ask yourself, when did they get in? Ask that question. Did they get in when it was red hot? Or did they get in before it was $50 million a year? That's the question. So this is my opinion. I imagine this will spark some interest and some comments and things like that. But I challenge you. Think about whether it's network marketing, whether it's, look at Facebook, okay? Zuckerberg invited 5 of his friends over for a meeting about Facebook. 2 showed up, 2 are billionaires. Same with Bill Gates. Bill Gates introduced this to 5 of his friends, okay? 3 said, it'll never work. 2 said yes, both are billionaires. Do you see how that model works? Not just in network marketing, but in everywhere. Now, there is one more factor to this. You may have a company that's up here that expands in another country, and you have a new S-curve. That's possible. But for most people, okay, you want to identify if you want to make the big money. Can you make $100,000 a year when it's red hot? For a little bit, okay? Maybe even permanently. Can you make millions? I haven't seen it. So, interested to hear your thoughts. This is my opinion, based on my observations. Tell me what you think at the bottom. Bye-bye.
Hey guys, Ray's the leader in network marketing. He's got a bunch of training and podcasts that are absolutely fantastic. And this explains exactly what we're talking about. So let's take a look at a few companies here. Here's a few companies that went into momentum. You'll see a number of these. We're going to talk at the one right now, number 10, Nu Skin. Nu Skin, here's their exact growth chart. Okay, this is not speculation. This is we're going to look at a few different companies and their exact histories, so you can see this in action. Okay, a close look up at momentum. This is when Nu Skin started in 1984. In 1989, Nu Skin went from $40 million in sales to $500 million in 1991. Then to $1 billion in sales in 1993. Just 2 years later. Now here, this is when I joined Nu Skin in 1989, right at the beginning, right before they started to go, they were starting to reach critical mass at that point in time. I casually worked it, okay? They talked about it. The leaders told us that critical mass was coming at that point in time when I got started. That's when I learned about critical mass and momentum. My upline, John and Giselle Sexsmith, went from a 6-figure income when I met them to a 7-figure income, and they still have it today in Nu Skin. Over 500 billionaires were created during this time in the company. Let's take a look at It Works. How many people know this company, right? Well, it began in 2002. You'll see in a minute why I have that red highlighted. It Works, their first year, they generated $431,000 in revenue. In 2010, 8 years later, they got to $27 million in sales. 2011, $46 million in sales. And watch what happens when it hit that critical point in right near $50 million. 2012, they went to $200 million. All these numbers, you can go out online and verify these numbers, okay? 2013, $456 million, doubled again. 2014, $538 million in sales. 2015, $748 million in sales. Look at the top of this chart when they started to talk about this. Okay, now this was talked about in 2013, so they kind of drew this curve in this range. It actually went a little higher. All right, so you can see how things can change. It's not perfect. It's going to hit this number exactly, but it's within this range. Now, what's interesting here is let's take a look at Plexus. Plexus is a similar company. Now you're going to see some of these numbers. Look at these two charts, the one in the middle and the one on the right. The one in the middle is a little more updated than the one when it was published, put out there, the one in pink. Plexus began in 2008. Plexus first year generated $280,000 in revenue. 2009, it's 1 year later. That was in their first year, $280,000 in revenue. 2010, $968,000. You see that in the middle chart. Again, in the middle chart. 2011 was 10 million, a little over that. 2012, a little over 36 million. 2013, 160 million. Now in the pink it says 100 million because those were in the middle of 2013 when they were talking about that. Middle kind of, first, second quarter. 2014, 310 million. 2015, 385 million. 2016, 532 million. Okay, guys, you start to see the pattern here. 36 million in 2012, 532 million 4 years later. We said momentum can occur, that momentum, that vertical growth from critical mass, 3 to 5 years. Folks, this is real. There's a link there at the bottom as well for these statistics. Okay, now let's take a look at Lavelle. This is interesting because this is going to model somewhat where we are as well. Lavelle began in 2012. The first year they generated 10 million. Take note of that number. We're going to see that in a minute in relation to Tavala. 100 million in its second year, 300 million in its third year, 400 million in its fourth year. As of September 2017, this year, they publish that they have more than 6.5 million customers and independent brand promoters. Do you want to get in a company with 6 million customers and brand promoters? We have 20,000, a little over 20,000 right now. Guys, this is huge. Now let's take a look at this. 25 of the top MLM companies are listed here. Okay, this is as of 2013. Now, one thing you'll want to note is 22 of these 25 companies are in the health and wellness companies. Why is that important? Well, Paul Zane Pilsner, you can go out and buy these two books that are down here at the bottom, the New Wellness Revolution, How to Make a Fortune in the Next $1 Trillion Industry, and The Next Millionaires. He talks about, it says here, as you understand why nutrition, weight management, and skincare products continue to drive the trends in the network marketing industry. Let's take a look at Tavala. Guys, we started November 2016. We're just 1 year old. Tavala's first year generated an estimated 5.8 million in revenue. Dave and I are able to calculate that based upon, you take the first distributor of the week that enrolls, you take the last distributor member of the week that enrolls, you take those numbers, divide it, and you get a percentage of your individual growth of the company. We've been able to track, and Alan Davis has confirmed it, that we have anywhere between about 25%, maybe a little more, of the company's sales coming from our group from Dave down. Okay, so when we calculate that, the number of sales that Dave has had over the period of the last year to now, and then take a 1 quarter of that, times it by 4, we can kind of estimate, ballpark it, in a range of $5 to $8 million in sales. Remember Lavelle, they had 10 million their first year. Let's take a look at the rest. We've launched in multiple countries. It has a strong funding by our founder, Boyd Wathen. We are in the health and wellness, weight loss, sleep loss, pain relief, skincare industry. We celebrated our first year with an all-expense-paid cruise for 2. The second year anniversary cruise for 2018, the qualifications are underway. Guys, we are fully funded. Where does this position us for 2018? We'll take a look at the grid. Are we 2018? Where will we start? Where will we end? Where is momentum? Guys, this is the end of the slide. We're gonna have one more slide after this. Is just a couple pictures. But guys, think about this. Where you're at here with Tavala right now and what you have in your hands. Think about that tonight when you go to sleep and when you're building the end of this year. We want to build strong. We want to build this thing. We have time through 2018. Sometime we're going to enter very soon that critical mass phase when sales are going to go vertical. I was taught this. I didn't understand it when I first learned it. So we want to be able to share this with you guys now. So guys, this is the presentation. Critical mass, momentum, 2018. That's what it's going to look like. I think Dave had left the call. He's introducing take calls right now. So guys, hop on the corporate call, go to thecorporatecall.com, join the slide deck over there, and we'll see you there in the next minute. Thanks guys for coming to the presentation. Have a good night.